We regret to inform you that we're going to have to let you go. Weren't you supposed to give me a 30-day notice? I said, I've been here 6 years. If you need anything, just call or email me. I'll help you. That's who I am. I walked out. No matter what happens, don't lose you. Don't let the stuff that people say or do to you change you.
It is not every day that you meet someone who's mastered both military discipline and mindfulness. My guest today has spent 25 years in the United States Air Force, rising faster than most ever do, then traded his combat boots for coaching, spreadsheets for self-awareness, and then built a mission-driven business helping others lead with reliability, efficiency, and ethics. His story bridges structure and soul while also showing that leadership doesn't have to be loud in order to be powerful. Randy Wilson, my brother, it is so good to have you on. Welcome to More Than Before.
My brother, it is indeed my pleasure. Boy, those are great words too. Holy smokes. I think that's it for the show. I think we're
Close
done.
it down.
We're done.
Well, you do have an incredible story, and you have so many accolades, and there's so many. I always love getting to talk to people because there's so many eclectic stories that they have that other people don't have. I'm curious. You grew up in the northern part of New York, Rochester, New York, in the outdoors. What was life like for you as a kid?
You know, I learned how to be an explorer and to be self-sufficient because I had a sister 2 years older, right? And, and you get a certain age, you just don't do things with your sister anymore, I mean, it was a certain age, I was throwing bricks at her and she was throwing them back at me, that kind of thing. But you get a certain age, it stops. And then I had a brother 9 years younger. And meanwhile, I'm surrounded by miles of woods. Go to school, go home. Go to school, go home. And my dad, he worked a week of day shift, then 2 days off, week of swing shift, 2 days off, then a week of mids, 2 days off. And so a lot of times he wasn't there, right? And so I just learned how to self-entertain in the woods and outdoors, and just loved it. And it carries on today. I mean, I'll be honest with you. That's one thing from my childhood that I use today. I just go, right? I don't know what's around the next bend or of the river or over the next hill. I just go, and then that's my MO in business too. Kind of interesting, but it
I
was
love
it
that.
was it was cool. It was really cool. Yeah.
What was your father's occupation? What was he in?
He worked at Alcoa, Aluminum Company of America. Yeah. Yeah, he worked in the pot room, so smelting the iron ore and getting the aluminum out. And he said,
Not the kind of pot room that most of you are probably thinking about nowadays.
that's
It's a different kind of pot room.
yeah, it wasn't mainstream back then. It was a whole lot hotter. He said it was 120, 130 degrees in there a lot of times. So yeah, I think that's a difference too.
That is a huge difference. So what did you find so you found yourself in the outdoors quite a bit. Were there any other activities that you found yourself doing as a kid?
You want a funny story? Well, I don't know if it's funny, but my mom and dad told me that when I got bored, I would read the encyclopedia. Right? Like, I don't know. I guess I was curious at a young age. One time my sister and I made a mistake and told our mom that we were bored, and it was in the middle of the winter, and we had to go out and dig carrots. We had to find carrots in 2 feet of snow. We had to find them first and then dig them up and get them in the house. And that took forever, right? So we learned to not tell mom that we were bored anymore after that.
I don't think I've ever heard a story of someone having to go out in the winter to dig for carrots.
Me
I mean,
neither.
are there a lot of carrots out there, or were they carrots that your family had planted?
We had a big garden, right? So just imagine like it was probably maybe like 60 foot by 60 foot, right? So it's pretty good sized lot, and we had to find them, right? We kind of had an idea in the garden, but maybe that's kind of like life. You have an idea where things are, and then you got to find it. You dig and dig. We're like, hey, carrots. And I don't remember it, but mom says they were some of the sweetest carrots she ever had. And I don't know about that, but
I love it. Just I don't know, just visioning you going out and scavenging for carrots. I'm glad you told us it was a garden because I was thinking that your mom made you go out into the woods to find wild carrots or something. I mean,
that
you
would have
never
been a
know.
real search.
Oh,
That would have been a real search. Yeah,
so
in the winter we tobogganed a lot and and ice skated. We would clean off the ice and ice skate and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
what were some of the memories that you remember like learning from your parents? Like what were some of those core memories that really shaped who you were as a kid?
My dad, he was always one of those kind of people that if there was a issue or a challenge, he always kind of figured out the answer. I remember some of the weirdest stuff, like working in the pot rooms at Alcoa, the hot floors, the treads of their steel-toed boots would like get worn down real fast. So he started like a side business of cutting old tires and using the tire and then resold their boots. What? How's that work, right? Oh, he had we sold firewood for extra money too, right? And I got $5 a load, like 5 cord of wood. Well, there's an old dump back in the woods, and we used he had a Chevy flatbed, and he could put 5 cord of wood on it, so it was pretty strong engine and stuff. Had dual wheels in the back, dual tires. And one day I drove it to the dump. This was in the summer. I drove it to the dump, and something happened with the starter and it wouldn't start. I think that's what it was. Anyways, it wouldn't start, and I was back down the hill a little bit, and so you couldn't push start it, right? It was standard transmission. You can. So my dad was only like 5'8", 5'8 and a half, and so I walked home about a half mile. He came back, came back with me. He jacked up the tires, the rear tires on the driver's side, put put it in first gear, turned the key on, and then he manually spun the back tire, dual tire. He 5'8", like 5'8". He manually spun that back tire enough to turn the engine over and get a fire and start the truck. I wouldn't have thought of that.
I mean, your dad just kind of sounds like a kind of like a man's man kind of guy.
He just, he did whatever, there wasn't anything that he couldn't solve. And that was if that was one thing that he taught me was there's always an answer. Just figure it out, right? And even late in his life, I would have an idea. He would look at me. He's like, "Well, make it happen, son." Right? And that was like a motto: "Make it happen, son." So I was just make it happen.
Love that. Well, it's true though for a lot of your life though. It was funny because before we even started the interview, we were talking about kind of just how you've never really set goals in your life, but you've achieved some really amazing things. Like maybe
Yeah.
even go into that a little bit. Like, like when you were a kid, like what did you want to be when you grew up? Was it like Davy Crockett? Was like who did you want to be?
I didn't know if I wanted to be like him, but I read a lot of the westerns. My grandfather started me on Louis L'Amour. I don't know if you know Louis L'Amour, famous western author. I was accelerated in math and science in high school. I made the honor society. I still had no idea what I was going to do. I thought I'll drive a truck. I'll go to Paul Smith's college in Saranac Lake, I think it is, in the Adirondacks, and I'll be like a conservationist. Like I don't know. But then my sister joined the Air Force 2 years ahead of me, and she seemed to like it, so that's why I ended up going. I ended up going in the Air Force instead of. I had a couple of small scholarships, but my family didn't talk about college or anything like that. It was kind of on my own, and so ended up joining the Air Force, and before long I was outranking my sister, which she knew I would. Yeah.
Did you ever have words with your sister after you joined the Air Force of like, you didn't tell me what I was getting signed up for. Maybe you sold this a little too well.
No, there was a lot of interesting experiences, but I can honestly look back across the 25 years and not identify something that just I didn't really care for. Yeah, it's interesting. Even, being in Korea for a year without my family, like, it's okay, you know? But my sister was stationed in Korea at the same time. So we actually went drinking the first time ever together. Yeah. She was at Osan Air Base and I was at Kunsan. I rode the bus 3 hours north and then we went out and that was in 94, 95. So by then I was, what, 29, 30.
What are some of the memories that you have of military life, and how did that shape kind of who you were?
My my very first duty location was the Azores. The Azore Islands in the middle of the Atlantic. For a kid that grew up in upstate New York, never flew until I went to basic training and then ended up overseas. That was pretty interesting. And ended up in a data processing center. And my very first supervisor, Harry Beale, said, "You're going to be a chief master sergeant one day." It's kind of like chief to make chief. It's like it's congressionally mandated. Only 1% of the military can be that rank, and that's across all services. So it's very hard to make it. But imagine somebody, you're 18 or 19. Somebody says, you're going to be a mayor of your town here one of these days. You're like, what? It just didn't compute. But
What was it about that? What did he see in you that was different, that he felt compelled to say something like that?
it was funny. I got along with everybody. I worked at figuring things out because I worked the night shift. So I would come in like 4 o'clock and I would work till the work was done. Sometimes it would be midnight, maybe 2 in the morning, but sometimes not till like day shift came in the next day and work by myself a lot of times. I remember one night the way the systems worked back then to shut it down, there was a process where the computer would work and you needed so much disk space for it to work. And the computer said, I'm going to shut it down. The computer says, hey, there's not enough disk space, basically. Do you want to delete this file? I'm like, I guess I need to. So delete, delete. I just kept deleting files, right? Not knowing, right? I was thinking they would tell me when I had enough space. I just kept deleting. And then eventually I'm like, this sure seems like I, I, I think I deleted enough by now. So then I tried it and then the system shut down like it was supposed to. But that was after I deleted so much stuff. And then the day shift came in. They're like, Airman Wilson, what'd you do? So I explained to them what happened. What they really liked, not that I made a mistake like that because it was recoverable, they could, restore the files. It was just the attitude of try to solve the problem.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't call anybody up at whatever time in the morning. I just, okay, well, I just figure it out, right? And end up getting the Airman of the Quarter award. I was 18 years old, Airman of the Quarter. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing. But I got along with people. I tried my best to solve problems. I had a good attitude, right? Basic stuff. And then
Why do you think those things separated you out from like most people? Like, because you're saying 1% of people actually get this rank. What was it about you that really separated yourself out from other people? Was it attitude? Was it the connections that you had with people? What do you attribute that to?
I think it was mainly attitude. Um, so growing up in high school, I got picked on. I didn't belong to any group. I didn't belong to the jocks or the druggies or the like musical folks or whatever. I didn't belong to any group, but I kind of got along with all the groups, even though I did get picked on some. I learned how to get along with everybody, and I think that carried forward. Um, because yeah, I did get along with everybody. I remember playing poker with my coworkers at Captain Dennis Noakes's house. I've got one stripe, and I remember playing I remember playing poker at his house with, senior master, so like really like crusty folks, older folks, and it's just one of them. And even though I hadn't been in that long, and then the next base, the same thing happened. First supervisor says, "You're going to be a chief one day." But I didn't really, the question you asked me, I didn't really realize it until later. Like I didn't realize. I just kind of like, oh, okay, right.
It
And
wasn't like
then,
it wasn't like it was prophesied over you, and they're like, you're gonna be a chief one day," and
uh,
oh
yeah,
yeah, son. And then you went and told all of your superiors, "I'm gonna be a chief one day over you." Like
yeah. Nobody put their
that
hand.
didn't happen.
Yeah, nobody took me to church and prayed, and you know. But there's something new. My second base in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio. I was there 8.5 years before I went to Korea, and I got promoted several times while I was there, um, well ahead of average. And my supervisor, Jose Trejo, and I still maintain contact with him today. He sang national anthem at my retirement ceremony. I left Dayton, Ohio in 1994, went to Korea, then Spokane, Washington, then just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, then just east of St. Louis, Missouri, then back to Dayton, and I was selected for Chief Master Sergeant. And I had my promotion ceremony. And I remember Jose was there, and I had my speech, and I said, "That man right there, I credit him with teaching me what I needed to do to really separate myself from others to make chief." After this, ceremony part was done, I went over to him, gave him a hug, and he said, "Randy," and he'll tell you this today if you talk with him. He said, "Randy," he said, "I told a lot of people the same thing I told you, but you're the only one that did anything with it." And it was like getting involved with the community, going out, doing more than you needed to do, more than you were called to do. It's not just coming to work and working hard, is doing the community stuff and, you know, becoming educated, going to college and things like that. And so it's well rounded. And so I credit him.
It's interesting 'cause I even going back even further than that, your father telling you just to go and do it and
Just
just
go.
make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually pretty brilliant because we have a lot of people today that are we live in a genre, an era that we have more information than any other time in the world, and yet we have more people that don't do anything. We have people
Yeah.
that sit around that don't do anything, that sit on their couch to watch a movie, they watch a show, they watch a reality, or,
Yeah.
people will people will watch how to fix things in their house, and then they don't go and fix it. And then it sits there for months and months and months, and then finally, the spouse gets upset and then calls someone to do it. "Oh, I was gonna do that. I learned how to do that. I watched like 12 YouTube videos on how to do it."
Yeah.
But it's a quality to take information and to actually apply it and use it.
There's a belief. There's a belief that you can do something with it.
Mm.
Like if you don't do anything with it, then nothing's going to happen. So I think it goes back to the attitude, and a lot of people are just programmed. They're just stuck. They're just perpetually stuck in the same place. And
There's a lot of people that, get into a job and they don't like it, maybe they don't put their heart into it, and everyone can kinda sense it. I don't know if this is what happened with you, but you got fired by the same guy twice. How do you get fired twice by the same person?
those, um, uh, by the way, when that happened, I didn't like it, but then I was kind of okay with it too, right? Because I know that I'm being guided, taken care of. So when I retired from the Air Force 2009, I started working for a Navajo-owned government IT contracting company as a program manager. 4 years later, I became the COO of the company. We're $60 million a year, right? And I wasn't even gonna apply for the CEO, and people say, "Hey, you should apply." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll apply." Um, and interviewed and got it. Well, things are going great. Things are going really well. We had over 300 employees and contracts in 13 states, 2 foreign countries. And then, like, our HR VP, left, so now I'm doing HR stuff, and then I became VP of the company too, so, more responsibility. And I had my, um, annual appraisal in May of 2014. And just before that, I was warned, "Hey, watch out. John's going to figure out how to get his buddy in your seat." I'm like, right? Because this never happened before in my life, right? You just keep doing what you do and everything, good things happen, right? So I'm like, So I sat down with John and he said, "You're doing an incredible job." He said, I'm not paying anywhere near what you should be paid. I'm going to give you a big bonus and a big raise. I'm like, "Oh, cool." I said, "By the way, could I get like a deputy, like an assistant?" He's like, "Sorry, can't do that." I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right." Well, a couple weeks later, we get word from the government at Fort Meade, Maryland. They said we had a $120 million contract there. And they said, "There's problems on this contract. And if you don't fix them in 30 days, we're not renewing your contract on the 1st of August." So this was in June, right? So, like, okay, well, even though I'm the COO, I've got a few layers of people between me and the contract. I ended up inserting myself on the contract, right? And I was frankly appalled by what I saw. Like, it's just no, that's right. So the first week I fired 20 people. I was, yeah, first week.
You're popular.
I'm like, "You're gone, you're gone." Change like the leadership out, like, um, but there's a lot of good stories in there at the same time. And at the end of the 30 days, I sat down with the CIO of the organization. It's a $1.3 billion global organization. I mean, it's a big organization, right? Sat down with the CIO, retired Army colonel, and he says, "Randy," he says, "I've seen what you've done. There's a lot of work to do still." He said, "But based on what I've seen," he said, "we're renewing the contract." I'm like, "Perfect." Right? So I come back to home office and walk into John's office. I say, "Hey, John, good news, renewing the contract." He said, "Well, I've lost faith in you. So either you're gone totally or you stand up a new company under our corporate umbrella." That was a shock, you know? And I said, "Well, I'll stand up the new company." And in retrospect, how can you not trust somebody and then they ask you to, you ask them to stand
Yeah,
up a new
stay.
company? Things just weren't matching up, right? Well, just like I had been warned, his buddy then became the COO. Like, okay, well, there's that. So stand up the new company, everything's rocking and rolling, and he would swing by my office. He's like, "Man, you're doing a good job." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I know." And
Yeah, yeah.
I have a disc. I have a D side of me. It's not dominant, but it'll come out in the right
When
situations,
needed.
you know. And the guy that replaced me, he would swing by the office. He's like, "Oh man, that contract down there." He's like, "Oh, that's so hard." I'm like, "Yeah, imagine that, right?" So anyway, so doing a good job with this new company. That started the end of June of 14. And then heading into 15, I started seeing something. Things just aren't matching up very well. And it got to the point where I knew they were going to have to let me go again by 1 July. So 1 July was on a Wednesday, and I was going out of town on Tuesday. So I walked into my boss's office the prior Friday. I said, "Hey, John, if you're going to fire me, you're going to need to fire me on Monday because I'll be out of town Tuesday." So I don't remember his reaction. All I remember is that weekend, my wife and I went in and packed up my office. So come Monday, I'm sitting in there, walls are bare, right? Not much happening in the office. People are coming by, are like, "Randy, what's going on?" I'm like, time for a change, you know? And, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, right? Time for change. And, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, here comes the HRVP from New Mexico. "Hey, Randy, can you come down to John's office?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's go." Right? So go down
The
and
writing's on the wall, or I guess nothing's on the wall.
yeah, so go down there and, "We regret to inform you that we're gonna have to let you go." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, where's the papers?" Right? And like, "Weren't you supposed to give me a 30-day notice anyways?" "Oh, yeah, you're right," so worked out all the severance pay, all this kind of stuff. And I said, and here's a lesson for people, right? And I've used it over the years. I said, no matter what happens, don't lose you.
Hmm.
Don't let the stuff that people say or do to you change you. Because once everything was signed, I stood up, gave every one of them a hug. I said, I've been here 6 years. If you need anything, just call or email me. I'll help you. That's who I am. And I walked out. They reached out a couple of times. I helped them out a couple of times. Right. Then it wasn't a year later, it wasn't even that long, 6 months, the CEO got fired, the HRVP got fired, everybody got fired. So I got moved out of there, right? If you believe being guided, I got moved out of there before the crap really hit the fan. And,
Interesting.
so yeah, so I got fired twice by the same guy, and that's when I started my own company. So if I hadn't been fired the second time, I'd still be in the corporate world, and I wouldn't be doing what I really enjoy now.
I love that so much. You have, I don't know, I've known you for a while now, and you have the kind of this lighthearted reaction to things. You hold things very lightly. And we meet people. I know a lot of people, you know a lot of people. And while we can say that people hold things lightly and loosely, there aren't really that many people that do. In fact, it was interesting. I was just talking to someone the other day, how the apostle Paul, he talks about, I know what it is to have much, and I know what it is to have little, and I can be content in all things. And then, everyone likes to quote the verse right after that, that I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Everyone forgets
Yeah,
the first part of that, of like, I know what it is to have plenty, and I know what it is to have little. I know what it is to be in want and what it is to be in need. Um,
yeah.
but you truly do hold things very lightly. I'm curious, I've talked about the crucible moment a lot on this podcast because I think we all have crucible moments in our life where life heats up and we have the choice to either let go of things and move forward, or we can hold on to the things that maybe we should be letting go of and burn our hands. I'm curious, what were some of the crucible moments in your life that you look back on and you go, man, that was a moment in my life that was trying, that was difficult, but because I went through it or because I let go, man, my life really changed and shift to a different direction.
There was one that immediately comes to my mind. We just like the Bible passages, we say the words, but we do we really feel them, right? Do we really believe them? Do we really let them
Live them.
speak to our heart, right? I think a lot of people use the word forgiveness, but do they really forgive? You know what I mean? So, a crucible moment in my life was my prior marriage, something happened, and I won't get into details here, but there's a guy that something happened, and I remember saying I forgave him, but then several years later, I ran into him. I wasn't really looking forward to it, I'm a tall guy, not really big. This guy was like 6'6", probably 280, big dude. And he saw me and he walks right up to me and he says, "Hey Randy, can I talk with you?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Crap. Right? Right? He came up to me and he said, "Randy," he said, "what I did has been in my mind ever since it's happened. Will you forgive me?" And in that moment, I said, "Yes, I do. I really do." And you just kind of see the weight. Like he'd been carrying all this weight around for a long time. And when I said I forgive him, I could really tell that he felt that. And I felt it too, interestingly enough. I mean, Paul, do you remember Paul Martinelli has a teaching about resentment, restriction, and revenge. Somebody does you wrong, you have resentment. It's like negative energy, thoughts, words about the individual. If you don't do something with that, then it grows into restriction where you willfully withhold good intention from this individual, right? You can help them, but you don't. And if you don't do anything with that, then that grows to revenge. And that's negative, any negative thought or action to anything or anybody, past or alive, right? And one of the things you can do to keep that from happening is to forgive. And I realized that I had gotten to the revenge stage with this guy because I heard that his business wasn't doing well. I'm like, good, right? Good. He deserves that. But then when I saw him and he asked for me to forgive him, and I did, and I saw the reaction and I felt it myself, I realized that that's what forgiveness really is. When you feel that. That was a big time crucible moment in my life to actually know what forgiveness means.
I love that you talk about that because there really is something to this idea of forgiveness, of how it really does take weight off of us and others. Uh, I'm curious, why do you think forgiveness is such a key component of living life? Like, I mean, we are constantly, doing things to other people without even knowing it half the time. If you've done any studying of DISC, you know that we're constantly offending different personalities all the time. I'm doing it. My wife is the, key person in my life that I constantly offend, not by not trying to, but why do you think forgiveness is such an important quality that we should learn how to do? I don't think a lot of us actually are taught how to forgive. Why is that an important quality to have in life?
You know what? How often do you forgive yourself?
Mm.
I think that's where it starts. I don't think a lot of people are good at forgiving themselves. And unless you learn how to forgive yourself, how can you really forgive anybody else? Right? Like we all make mistakes. Um, some big, some bad, right? Some personalities, like you said, some personalities just beat themselves up continuously for so long when they make a mistake, right? We got to learn how to let that go. We're human beings, right? We're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect. Even, the smartest people out there, they still make mistakes. So how can we really hold ourselves to a level of no mistakes, right? It doesn't work that way. So if we can say, okay, Randy, that was a dumb move, you know, but you know what? All right, forgive yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Forgive yourself. Learn from it and move on. Okay, all right, moving on. Because you know what happens when you don't? You just feel it for like so long. So I think that if we get really good at forgiving ourselves, then we can really get good at forgiving others, but not until then.
So you get out of uh, the Air Force, you go through these two different job career paths, and then
Yeah.
now you end up as an entrepreneur. How does that take you to where you are today?
Yeah, lots of lessons. Learned a lot of stuff in the Air Force, leadership, communication, teamwork, all those things. And then the corporate world, things didn't always go smoothly, but um, learned a lot that I can apply in this business. We know that when we teach, we or mentor, not so much the coaching side, but when we teach others, being able to insert personal stories, that really makes the connection. And I have a ton of stories. I have so many stories. So that's what all that preparation allows me to be really good at what I do. And not in an egotistical way, but it helps me to really connect with people. That big contract I told you about that I had to insert myself on, there's a guy, Shane. I didn't know it until a few years later, but he told me that, Randy, he said, that contract was such a mess. And he was like a systems engineer guy, just really good, technically bright. and he had a great personality too. He said, "Randy, I was ready to leave that crap show, right? It was just so bad." He said, "But then you came walking down the hall. I never met you, and you put your arm around my shoulder and you said, 'We're gonna do great things together.'" And he said, "It was because of you that I stuck around." And there are a lot of situations where I learned how to do that, in the Air Force. I learned how to connect. I learned how to go through discomfort to come out better on the other side. My grandmother Big lesson my grandmother taught when I was in Korea for a year, right? So I come back, I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I was over in Korea for a year. Oh, it's so hard, Grammy," right? Thinking I'll get some, you know,
Love,
"Oh,
some
poor Randy," right?
sentiment.
But but she said, "I know how you feel because your grandfather was in Europe for 3 years during World War II, and I didn't get to talk with him once. And every time Western Union came to the door, I didn't want to open the envelope because I didn't know what it was going to say." I'm like, holy crap, right? I'm thinking my situation, it wasn't the best, but certainly wasn't the worst, you know? So I think those kinds of things, mindset things, really, really helped me. And then once I felt I was successful as a leader, but it wasn't until I became Maxwell certified that I realized how much I didn't know about leadership. But when I took all the experience and then applied more ongoing learning, then I honestly don't feel like there's anybody that I can't help. I'm also a certified yoga instructor, right?
Yeah, and a cer in your, Reiki master too.
Reiki master. Yeah,
I would
so
also I would also say you're a trail cam master too, because you have some
I am a
amazing
trail
shots
cam.
on your trail cam, which I actually did wanna ask you about, like, when did you start setting up trail cams? Because you have 20 trail cams in 2
20.
different states, which,
Yeah.
you know, maybe there should be like a help place that you can go to of like, "Hey, he's got a problem, he keeps finding more trail cams."
Yeah. Yeah, trail cams anonymous, right?
How did you get into putting trail cams up, and what have you learned about doing that? Because you've been doing that for a
Yeah.
number of years now, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I started out with one camera, old camera, and then got another one and had that one for a long time. Then I started having problems. So then I put a spreadsheet together and I started researching trail cameras. And I'm like, well, I end up settling on the brand I use, and the stuff gets sent to my phone no matter where it's at, right? So that was the game changer. I didn't have to go to the camera to pull the card out, put it in my laptop and see the pictures, right? So I get pictures all the time. So that was really the game changer. But here's the rub though. So imagine down here there's an 86,000 acre forest, and then up home where I grew up, there's a 22,000 acre state forest. Within those forests, you got to put the camera where there's deer, so you got to be good at and bear and coyotes. You got to figure out where to put it. Is there signal? That's a challenge. You got to point the camera the right direction. I have solar panels, so the solar panel has to have access to sunlight. So it can't be like in the middle of a woods during summer and all the leaves. So I got to, like, it's a game. And sometimes I'll have the camera in the right place, but I turn it 45 degrees, and then I might get 1 picture, 2 pictures over a month. I'm like, "Oh, I need to go adjust that," right? And then I move it 45 degrees. Oh, picture, 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 picture. So I don't know. It's like
Kinda
Christmas
trial and
all the
error then.
time. It is, right? You learn, right? Um, and it's a game. It's like Christmas. I get pictures all the time.
It
Yeah, and
was
then
funny because for the
videos.
longest time, I'd see, like, your social media and you're posting a picture of, a bear or a video of a bear or a picture of and you'd be like, "Hey, look who I see. Look who came into the picture here." And I'm like I just look at it, I'm like, "What's going on? Like, how is he getting all these pictures?" And I'm thinking you're stealing
Yeah.
them from someone, like, you must know all these hunters or something like that that are taking videos But, like, I didn't even realize until, we started, doing some research and you were telling me, I was like, "My goodness, I didn't know that I didn't know people did this." Like, is there, like, a community of trail cam people out there?
I think
One of a
I
kind,
I think I'm one of a kind. I know a lot of people that have 1 or 2, maybe
but not
3,
20.
but not 20. My wife fully supports it, I mean, I could do a lot worse things in life.
That's I was gonna say there's probably a reason why she supports that over other things.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
What's the strangest story? What's the coolest picture or video that you've ever gotten on one of your trail cams?
Well, the coolest pictures are the bears, like a mama bear and some cubs, and when they, like,
Come up to the
you
camera.
you get this picture set and you're like, "What in the world is this?" Right? And it's like one picture, but then I'm like, "Okay, send me the video." And then, like, the nose pulls away, oh, because the bear. So, the curiosity or sometimes I'll go to the camera because it's not working anymore, and I find it's all chewed up, you know? So,
Yeah, I was
yeah.
wondering how often you have chewed up cameras from bears or things like that.
Fortunately, not very often because the cameras are a couple $100, you know?
Yeah. Gets
But,
kind of expensive if that keeps happening over and over.
yeah. But I love the outdoors, I love it's a game. I could show you a map where I've had all the cameras, 'cause I mark them with a brown dot, like, was there, was there, was there, and, yeah, it's a pretty cool hobby. Yeah. I
I
gotta
love
figure
that.
out how to, like a lot of people comment that they love the pictures. "Hey, thanks for sharing these." I mean, so that kinda drives me too, it's not just for me, it's for others. Yeah.
What would you say, like, who are some of your biggest influences in life? Like, who are the people as you look back and even just like the small little things, like, obviously we have a lot of interactions with people. We get a lot of downloads from people. What are some of, like, the most impactful, influential people that have spoken into your life that have really shaped it?
Yeah, and my dad, talk about my dad. Didn't realize it till later, right? I mean, we had a great relationship, the whole time, but didn't really realize the impact till kinda later. John Maxwell, he's pretty incredible. Paul Martinelli, he really helped me with a lot of the mindset stuff. Um, couple of my probably 3 supervisors in the Air Force, Jose Trejo, I mentioned. Deb Snyder over in Korea, and Dean Clemens. Dean Clemens is an interesting guy. You know where Coos Bay, Oregon is probably.
I do.
So he grew up Coos Bay, Oregon, in logging camps, and he became my commander at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base the second time I went there. And he went to Harvard. So really bright guy with very humble beginnings. And I remember one day he came and then he was gonna have a promotion ceremony. And I went into his office. He's like, "Okay, Chief, Pam Hale's husband has a Dairy Queen franchise, doesn't she?" I'm like, I'm not sure, sir." "Yeah, yeah, she does." How many people do you think will be at the ceremony tomorrow?" I said, "Well, we got 600 in the unit, sir." He's like, "Well, how much? All right, let's order 600 Dairy Queen Blizzards. What kind do you think? What kind do you think we should get?" I'm like, "I don't know, sir. I'll maybe 150 of 4 different flavors." He's like, "Yeah, Chief, go ahead, do it." Okay, all right, sir.
The largest order that Dairy Queen has ever received.
The ceremony
That
was
must
in
be
July.
that would have been a
The ceremony
logistical
was
nightmare.
the Dairy Queen truck pulled up. People lined up, went through. We had about 300 people there. A lot of other people were working and stuff. So then we had a corporate building, right? Pat, we had all these like mini freezers all over the place. They were just stuffed with blizzards. People were eating blizzards for weeks.
I didn't even know that they had Dairy Queen trucks. It's like
Yeah,
my mind is
but
blown right now.
but he was such. such a personable guy. And when I retired in 2009, my ceremony was on the battlefield in Gettysburg. And he was stationed in Hawaii. He had just, and I had asked him if he would officiate my ceremony. He was in Korea, flew to Hawaii, was there like a day, flew here, retired me. The very next day, he flew back to Hawaii. That's pretty awesome. So he definitely made a mark on my heart because that's commitment, that's service.
I love it because one of the things that I find really refreshing about you is your ability to connect. You really do connect with a lot of different people. I've talked about this before that there's connectors out there. They do a lot of different things. I'm one of those people. I'm into a lot of different things. I find interest in a lot of different things, and so they're connection points. But from one of the things that I've heard you say is that I wasn't good at a lot of different things. I just put my nose to the grind and I just did it. And I find that really amazing because we can come at life from so many different aspects and so many different perspectives that we can all find success. We can all find significance in things as long as we just lean into who we're created to be. There's a word that I would love for you to speak into because I think this word really does encapsulate a lot of who you are. And it's the word integrity. Why is integrity such a powerful and meaningful word to you?
Yeah. For me, across my career, Air Force and corporate, I encountered some folks that didn't have integrity. And I never really had a good relationship with them because I couldn't trust them. There were times where I was left holding the bag. People were supposed to do things, and like, oh, I guess I need to do it, you know? So I end up getting things done. But, integrity, you doing what you're supposed to do, and nobody's looking. And even once people are looking and you still don't do it, that's rough, And I think that's such a good word. I want people to trust me. I want people to know that when I say I'm going to do something, they can trust me that I'm going to do it. And I'm pretty sure I have that reputation. But it doesn't take much to mess that up. You don't get too many chances. So even like that story about getting fired, I felt like I had integrity at the very end, just you need anything, let me know and I will help. They reached out and I did. It wasn't like didn't hold grudges or anything, just did. And can you think of anybody that you trust that doesn't have integrity?
And those people that you do see that don't have the integrity, that don't live the same life, that aren't the same person in every single situation, your mind just kind of pinpoints them and go, yeah, that's someone that I don't really want to spend time with. That's someone that you can't really, it's almost kind of like, we used to say, you don't want to bring that person back to your mom.
Yeah.
it-
Yeah.
you don't want to bring that person back to your spouse. Or, with me, I've got kids and there's certain people that, there's a little spidey sense, I guess you could call it, that you go, yeah, I don't think I want that person around my kids because there's just something about them that I don't trust. How have you come to trust your intuition? Because I find that you're a very intuitional person.
That's I I didn't realize that's what it was. We talked other times about goals. I'm not a goals kind of person. I just go. Um, there's a feel. I learned to go with the feel of things, and to me, that's the intuition. Like I didn't realize I had it, or even down to basics. Hey, Dad, where are you gonna go fish tomorrow? I think I'll go there, right? Then you wake up the next morning. I think we're going to go over here. That's intuition, right? And then listening to it, you get the message, you get that feather, and you make the adjustment. Right? Like that story about when you're open to it, God's, brushing you with a feather, trying to get you to go a certain way. And if you don't, eventually you get hit with a 2x4, 'cause he's okay. I've been trying to tell you, right? And it's really time to go now. It comes into play. I had a situation, I had a team that, boy, they had some real problems in the team, leadership team. And I was supposed to do some strategic planning with them. And I had a process and everything. I don't know, even up to that morning, right? I'm like, okay. Up to that morning, I'm like, help, help me. And then it happened. It happened. Somebody said one thing, and I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, oh, there it is. I said, why don't we pause right here and just, what else is on your mind? And then they said more was on their mind. I said, that's what we're going to do here. Everybody's going to have a chance to speak their mind, right? And everybody else gets to listen. I want everybody to be able to put out there what's on your mind, because unless we do that, then who knows? Nobody knows. And that ended up being a very powerful, probably about 45 minutes. Yeah. Trying hard not to look at my watch. I'm like, geez,
Hey,
But
it's time to go.
but that was big time intuition. It was like, okay, there it is. I had no idea really how I was going to navigate through that. So I was helped, and I knew when it was right. I think you learn if you're open to it. You can't get it if you're not open to it. Like, I would say we all have giftings, and once you say, you know what, my intention is this, then it happened.
Randy, I've absolutely loved just getting to spend time with you. You have so much wisdom, and there's so many things that you've experienced that I think so many people are gleaning from. I do have one more question for you here, but before I ask you the question, for all of you guys listening, if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to follow, leave a review, share this with a friend or a teammate who you know that needs to hear this. And if you'd like to connect with Randy, you can connect with him at ReelPD. That's ReelPD.com. Or you can also connect with him on LinkedIn. He's also got a book that's going to be coming out here, hopefully in the near future. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be truly an amazing read. I just know it. But Randy, you have so many people who have influenced your life. And I love kind of how we are kind of bringing it into the culmination here as we land the plane, which is your wife. Your wife has been a huge influence to you. And I'm curious, in what ways has your wife influenced you and motivated you to be the person who you are today, the person that you're created to be? How has she influenced your life?
Such a great question, and thank you, by the way, for all this great conversation and stuff. You're an awesome guy, and I really appreciate you. I'll say I love you. Okay. We realize she makes me better, and I make her better. Right? Do we always agree on things? No. But we quickly learn how to navigate those little things. We rarely argue and stuff. I'll tell you, before I met her, I really didn't believe in Jesus. I didn't. But then just so happened this one day, the 86,000 acre state forest right down the road. I love to explore. So I'm following this old property line, come down this road, and a guy is driving by in a truck. Never met him in my life. He's like, hey, you want to be a member of the camp over here? I'm like, I didn't even know there's a camp, but sure. Never met him in my life. End up following his truck, go to the camp, talk with him for a little bit. I'm like, okay, I'm off to explore some more. A few weeks later, I asked my wife, she wasn't wife at the time, I said, hey, do you want to go check this camp out? So just so happened, go to the camp, and the camp was built in like 1926. And there was an old swing on the front porch. It was in October, wind was blowing, some snowflakes were blowing. And we just started talking about Jesus, and it made sense that day. So it just so happened I ran into the guy. It just so happened that he invited me. It just so happened I took her to the camp, right? It just so happened we had this conversation. So that's where it started, helping me to understand that there's, that he's real and there's so much good out there that he can help us with. And I think the second thing along that same realm is the power of intention. When we really intend things to happen, whatever it is, good or bad, when we truly intend it, it's going to happen. And I've seen it happen time and time and time again. And I wouldn't have really known that until I met her. She had a yoga studio. She changed the prices from like $12 to $15 per person per session. Sometimes people would pay short, but the very next person would pay extra. Like there's never a day where she came up short of money. It always worked out. I'm like, see? And so she taught me those kinds of things. Power of intention, abundance versus scarcity, believe in Jesus. There's so much out there and you're not alone. Ask for help. Ask for help. He's ready to help.
I love that. It's so good. Let me ask you this to land the plane. What does it mean to you to be more than before?
Yeah. I think a lot of people can be more. If you look in nature, everything grows until it's dying. And if it's not growing, it's dying. So I want to keep growing to be more than before, right until that last minute. So to me, that's what it's about. Keep growing, keep being more than before, more than yesterday, more than the week before. Just keep growing.
Man,
That's
so
it.
good.
Yeah.
Randy, I love you, brother. I'm so glad
I love you too.
that you got to come on, get to spend some time with you, sharing your story, sharing your stories of life. And I really do want to thank you for coming on and just sharing your wisdom for everyone. For all of you listening, like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone that you know needs to hear it. Until next time, be more, see more, and experience more than before.